another episode of Raise the Three, and we've been encouraging other women to share topics of interest to them. And so we had several requests for marketing and how we market joyfully. So we have questions around that today. Alex, do you want to read some of the questions?
In the earlier stages of Joyfully, how did you market your company?
So Joyfully started, 2011 was the first year we did full-scale production. And what was perhaps unique about Joyfully is that I started on Etsy, which was a global customer base, and I had that, and I had a blog. And actually through and through those two sources, Etsy and our blog, or my blog, we actually had a pretty decent following from there. In fact, I'd have to think when I very first put up the website and very first offered product, I'd have to think how much product we sold, but I know it was over 1,000 units in a single day. So, and the way I built those customers was, like I said, I had listings on Etsy, and then I also had a blog where I talked about the progression of the business. And it was through those two sites, actually, that some larger companies like Anthropology and Gap Incorporated and Gilt Group found out about Joyfully before we even had product. So the other thing that was unique about when we started the business is that Facebook was entirely free. So we got to build a lot of followers and reach all our followers for the first several years of business, which was incredibly fortunate, or you're blessed, depending on your perspective. And it's different now. But that was how we started it. And really, I didn't have to pay to do any marketing for many, many years in beginning the company. And it's really been only probably in the past 2 years that I've had to think about paying for marketing so that people knew about Joyfully.
Where did you learn how to market your business?
So, trial and error. I would say I think my strength is being consistent and how we tell the story of the brand, which is still marketing, like our photography, our logo, our aesthetic is really hopefully consistent enough that if you see a picture of our lifestyle, of our shoes, you might say, oh, that's Joyfully, even if the Joyfully logo isn't prominently in the photo. So I do think that's a strength of mine. Digital marketing and paid marketing, that has been a learning curve. And so even really just paying to advertise on Facebook has been a learning curve. Paying to advertise on Instagram, I feel like they're still figuring that platform out. So, but I would encourage you, if you're starting a company, you have to strategize marketing. You can't just develop a great product. How are people going to know about your product? Is it going to be a retail storefront where you have foot traffic? Is it going to be a digital marketing campaign? Are you going to do direct mailers where you send people things in the mail? Those are all multiple approaches. You can use influencer marketing. Whatever your strategy, marketing needs to be part of it, because that's how other people know your brand exists. And so even if you build an incredible product, if nobody knows you're there, you're not going to sell anything. One of the most scalable ways to market a young company is Facebook. You can start with just a $10 daily and see what happens. It also, one of the things I've had to learn that I didn't know because I don't have an MBA and I went to graduate school in something completely different. I had to learn about the marketing funnel. So you have the top of your funnel, which is where you're exposing someone to your brand for the first time. You have consideration in the middle, and then when they convert, when they buy, at the bottom. And you really need to market into all levels of that process of making an order. And I recently read a statistic that Somebody needs to see a brand 22 times online before they feel comfortable purchasing. That is a lot of times. So, you know, it's very unusual to show a photo of something and have somebody just buy. You know, you really need to look at building that brand, having them see it, hearing it through word of mouth or influencers, and taking it all the way from that initial exposure down into when they purchase. So, so I think Facebook is probably a great way to start if you're selling on e-com, because you can really target your demographic as specifically or as broad as you just set up through the ads manager in Facebook.
Do you have any other marketing strategies aside from Facebook?
Yeah, I do. I have several, actually. Not all of which I can discuss here, but there are some ways that we're looking at selling our product that we didn't sell it before, because we're considering it from a marketing perspective beyond just a revenue perspective. But actually, to that end, if you're selling direct to consumer, I think Facebook is great. But if you want to build a wholesale business, another option is going to shows. And we started that pretty late, maybe 4 years in the life of Joyfully. When I started, I just handmade something and put it out there. First on Etsy, and then when we overgrew Etsy, then I had a PayPal link on a blog and then a website. And so I was really just responding to demand. But and so my kids were also little, so the idea of like getting on a plane and being away from them for extended period of time felt hard to manage. But eventually we did go to shows, and that could be a great way to start a business. In fact, I know several entrepreneurs who started businesses that way, where you research the kind of trade show that's right for you. You could look into Magic is huge. We don't do Magic because it's just so big, but it is a good show for the right kind of brands. There's children's specific shows, there's women's specific shows, there's shows in New York, in LA, and so you could research the various trade shows, and then independently owned stores will come and walk the show. I mean, you'll get department stores and larger stores who walk those shows too. So that can be a way to build business efficiently. For us, we've had really mixed results with shows. We left sometimes with shows and had so many orders. We had like stars in our eyes. And then some shows we went to, we came back and wrote $0. So it really just kind of depends on the traffic of that particular show and if it's the right show for us. Another option is to look into reps who can take your brand to market for you and represent, multiple brands, not just yours, but that would be an option too.
How do you know what your customers want or like with marketing?
That's interesting, because we'll take a bunch of photos to kick off the launch of a line. Like fall is what you're seeing right now, which we shot in New York. We shot it in Manhattan and in Brooklyn and various locations through there. And so we'll look at the photos and say, oh, we think this, and this is going to be strong. But then there's always kind of surprises, things that customers like that may be different from what we expect. So I think with marketing, it's helpful to be a little bit exploratory. Try a few, different kinds of images, or even multiple images of the same item, or you can even pool family and friends to see what images resonate best. So I think it's always good to have how can I say it, a little bit of flexibility in your marketing approach, because as the owner of the brand, I think you definitely have your pulse on what people are excited about, but there can still be surprises, and to make space for that.
Do you have any marketing strategies that failed?
Sure. Oh my gosh. So I remember one time we tried Living Social, and it was crazy expensive. I mean, like thousands of dollars, and I don't think we got hardly, I mean, I don't know if we got even 5 orders off of it. And so that was an epic fail. We were so excited. We were like, this is going to work. No, nothing. Got a huge bill though. So that was not the right product for us. But yeah, we've tried that. I think too, I'm not sure how I feel about print. When I first started the business, the brand was featured in a lot of really well-known magazines like Parents Magazine and Bridal Magazines and The Knot, and in my naivete I thought, oh, this magazine's gonna come out and like the floodgates are gonna open with sales, and like for one thing, we didn't have any control over how the picture looked because it wasn't an ad. And so sometimes it would be a really nice image, and other times it'd be like really small and not quite what we thought, not as great. But it's definitely not like that. I mean, print ads are a really nice feather in your cap, but I don't know that they necessarily translate to sales. To me, they are more about establishing the brand. I'm trying to think if we had any other failures. I'm sure we had many, but that Living Social one, oof, that was painful. And then, like I said, we went to Magic and we sold 0. Nobody liked our stuff there. I don't know. Oh, but we did have 3 other companies knock off our designs, so it was a total fail. Yeah.
Do you have any other marketing tips for someone starting their first company?
Just that I said previously, is you have to have a marketing strategy. I don't know what it was when I was in high school, but I worked for back to back, like some startup companies, like a coffee shop and a cafe, and they were in the food and beverage industry, but each one closed, went out of business. And one of the things I thought was really interesting is that they built a beautiful venue, but then they didn't have any advertising. You have to advertise, just like I said previously. I think you really have to stay on top of that and have a plan and a strategy. Also, if you're in over your head with digital marketing, you could use a firm. It's definitely gonna cost more money than trying to figure it out yourself, but I think really quickly the Facebook spend can go from a little to a lot, and it's nice to have somebody sitting in it consistently and making sure the ads are performing at the rate that you want, and things like that. I mean, I think it's absolutely doable to start some of that marketing on Facebook yourself, like $10 a day, $20 a day, and see what works. But then when you start getting up there in a spend, make sure you're on top of it, because those dollars add up really quick. But there are a lot of really creative ways to start businesses now. I mean, food trucks are a thing, and we've talked about like pop-up shops, like retail trucks. I mean, there's so many different things depending on your lifestyle and your passion and where you live and your demographic and all that kind of thing.
All right, I think that's all.
Okay, thanks. And what are we talking about next week?
Customer service.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about how we do customer service, have you meet the customer service team. It's not a robot that you message in chat. It's like a real person who's here, who I talk to every day. Multiple people, I should say. But anyway, that's what we'll talk about next week. Thanks.